says we're live, so we'll go with it. Who knows? Let me turn off this stuff. Turn on my focus mode. I love focus mode. People be messaging me. All right. Let's go into the group and see if we're actually here or not. I'm using a different microphone. I've got my little lapel down here, so I believe we have fixed the sound issue we had last week. Who knows, though, if we're going to fix the internet issue where I just cut out halfway through, because that was fun. My apologies. Sneha's in. Welcome. Hello. Joan is in. Randall's in. Thumb is good, man. It's nice and wiggly. Look at that. I can wiggle it. It still hurts a lot. Ouch. Ooh. Yeah, it hurts, but it's good. So I haven't played hockey on it yet. I did, actually. I did do Big Rookies, which is my training, coaching program and stuff, last Friday. And it hurt like a mother. But, you know, I'm a hockey player now, so gonna power through. No, I feel like I'm all healed up in our games, you know, the important stuff that I do hockey-wise. What happened? We finished the season, we took a week off for Thanksgiving, and now it's playoffs. So I haven't been to a game in like 3 weeks because we were in Texas and everything. I missed the last game. So we'll see how it goes in playoffs. But, you know, when the Avs won in 2022, no, it was after that. No, yeah, 2022, Landeskog, the captain, played through like a broken knee, and like a bunch of people was all broken. And so I'm like, hey, you know, if they can do it, I can do it. Anywho, Kim is a figment of my imagination. Man, Kim, if you were the worst that I was ever imagining, I would have a pretty good life. Hope it makes sense. I have anxiety, so I imagine all sorts of doom and gloom. And if the worst was Kim, then I'd be doing all right. Welcome in. Glad you're here. Anybody get my email? Did you see that? I'll get through the political comments before everybody else jumps in. But I'm sitting there writing the email. I got to tell everybody I'm doing this thing, you know, and so I queue up the email. I didn't write it ahead of time, so I was like, okay, well, you know, stupid. I hate emails. It's frustrating, and I got to come up with something. And all of a sudden, I just wrote, "Let's go branding," and I thought, damn, I don't have to write an email for the rest of my life. That was it. I mean, guys, the copywriting, I could feel it. I could feel it coming out my fingers. I was like, anyway, that is not a commentary at all on anything politically related. It's just, it was just hilarious to me. So I hope that you saw the humor in it and didn't immediately unsubscribe, throw me in the sin bin. And yeah, exactly, Snake. Living on the edge of that subject line, full real. I sent it out, and immediately my buddy Dave Behrens, you probably know him. He does all my covers and all that. Amazing dude. He's working with me, so we were slacking in Slack, not slacking off, like whatever. We're in Slack, and he immediately pings me. He goes, "Let's go branding. That's amazing." And I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm so glad you said that." I was so worried everyone's gonna be getting the pitchforks and, you know, calling me out and whatever. You know, I'm like, I don't care. It's kind of funny because ironically, maybe not ironically, unironically. Ironically, how about that? It's kind of on brand for me, right? And we're talking about branding today. We're gonna wait a little bit. You know, only 5 minutes into it. But yeah, I feel like that's sort of what we're after today, is discovering this idea of who we are in certain personas that we've built online or that we want to build online. And of course, we're going to talk fiction. So you're an author. You want to build your fiction out. Look, I got another one. I thought I put Do Not Disturb on, but people are pinging me. Diane Capri is asking me about audiobooks. My buddy Dave's asking me about hockey Friday. I mean, just guys, I'm a busy, important man. I mean, can't you tell him? Anyway. Yeah, so it's on brand for me. I'm sarcastic and I love humor. And so I lead with that, right? Not as a defense mechanism necessarily, but that's me. That's who I am. And I feel like leaning into that is part of being on brand. And the flip side of that is leaning too far into it or not knowing when to let up is also part of my is not part of my brand. So I don't ever want to come across as a jerk, a troll, you know, over the top. over the top maybe, I guess. But you know, there's a line with people, and I don't ever want to. I don't want to be funny at the expense of someone else. I'd rather go the self-deprecating humor route. And this is all something that I've thought long and hard about because I have been accused of those things in the past. You know, college, when I was trying to figure out my humor and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying I'm a stand-up comedian or anything like that, but I feel like that's the process they go through as well. They're like, how do I want to come across on stage? And when we talk about branding, that's how I feel. I mean, how do I want to come across online? I put a lot of thought into that. Every response, for the most part, on a certain profile will have a different feel. That's all me, but it's geared toward a different goal, and it's hard to manage. I have 4 main Facebook things, 5 actually. So I've got a personal profile, and that's just me. I don't have to pretend I'm someone else or really develop a brand for that because I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. I've got my author, Nick Thacker author page, which is a page, obviously, and that's more of the, you know, professional author, but there's still the, you know, the humor, the sarcasm. I want that to be part of it, but that's my fiction stuff. And there's a group as well, Nick Thacker Fans and Readers, which is what that group is called. That's all for my fiction. And again, it's just a page in a group, and there are 2 different purposes, on Facebook for having 2. I don't know if one is better than the other. They serve different purposes. And the group is more for interaction between readers and fans, and the page is more for like broadcast type stuff, right? So there's those 2. And then on the nonfiction side, where you guys are watching from, there's also a page in a group. There's a Nick Thacker Publishing, Marketing, Craft is the name of that page. And then there's the Facebook group, Book Career in a Year, which is my nonfiction group. So there's all sorts of stuff to maintain. And it's important to keep it straight. And I'm not saying that you need to have 5 distinct Facebook profiles. And that's just Facebook, guys. Like I got TikTok and 2 YouTubes. And so it goes on and on and on. And I'm not saying that I'm doing the best that I need to be doing, but there's a plan in place to get there, right? So all of it comes down to the brand, and it comes back. Well, how do I want to appear? How do I want to come across? So anyway, we haven't even like, you know, started yet. This is all still preamble. We're waiting for a few more people to come in. It's a little light attended today, so go tell all your friends to come in here. Drag them in, say, get over here, guys, because we're talking about good stuff today. I got some notes. Notes are great because it keeps me on track. We're going to dive into that kind of stuff because I feel like, well, I don't want to give anything away. We're talking about branding. And if you saw that email, let's go branding. It's supposed to be funny. Don't read too far into it. Robin, I don't know if you've heard the phrase "Let's go Brandon." You should look that up. Get some popcorn. It's great. It's basically a political thing. People were making fun of President Joe Biden, and I was writing the email and I just wrote "Let's go branding" because I thought it was funny. Anyway, yeah, Kim, it's complicated. It's not complicated. It's simple conceptually and it's challenging tactically. Does that make sense? Every day is a lot of posting, and I don't do it every day, but I'll try to batch process everything being the week. You guys have seen in the group those automated emails or the automated things that I'm probably giving myself away here. Shout outs and let's welcome new members. All that stuff is stuff that I've automated, and the more that I can automate, the more that I can maintain touch points in these different communities. But the challenge is to also be present in the communities, right? As a real person, not as an automated bot. That's really the challenge. I could automate everything, and I would love automating. I could get TweetDeck or Hootsuite or something. Are you still seeing me? It just says that live video has ended. This is really frustrating. I'm still kicking here. It says I'm still going. So hopefully you can. I'll wait for a comment. Can you guys still see me, or did I cut out? It says I'm going. So. Okay, cool. I'm good. All right, sweet. Thank you. Yeah, it just says this live video, and I hate Facebook. It's so frustrating. But again, I'm recording offline, assuming my internet is still good. We'll keep going. Thanks, Robin. Thanks for telling me we're still good. All right, let's jump in. Let's talk branding, because that's really what I want to talk about today, and I've got a lot to say on it. If you can't tell, I wasted the preamble for 10 minutes talking about branding. So let's just actually officially get into it. First of all, what is a brand? Okay, I know there's a lot of, I've said this before, I'm recording the marketing course not as we speak, but this week. And I've said this a bunch of times in that marketing course, in those videos. You're gonna hear other people say what they think a brand is. You're going to hear other marketing experts, gurus, whoever define brand. That's fine. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I don't want to give you, the dictionary definition, because you can just go look that up on your own. I'm going to give you mine. I'm going to give you my definition of this stuff because it's helped me build what I have as a brand so far. And again, I'm not saying that my brand is amazing, and there's certainly places I want to go with it. But I've put a lot of thought and effort and time into trying to get this right. And so the way I define it, hold on, let me see if I'm missing things over here. I want to make sure I'm not missing you guys. All right, perfect. Nope, we good. So the way I define this is it's simply your persona online. Your persona online. And that is basically the way I think of a persona, regardless of the definition officially. The way I think of a persona is a person who's not really alive, that you've sort of created to seem like you in some ways. Certain differences, certain similarities. So a persona is just this ideal person that you've crafted to exist online as sort of an avatar of you, in a sense. It can be you, whole hog. It can, like I said, with my personal Facebook personal profile, if you just follow Nick Thacker or whatever, the personal one, that's just me. There's no persona. It's just me. I'm the persona. I'm the real person. It's one and the same. But it can also be fake. It can also be completely different. Chuck Tingle comes to mind, right? People who probably don't have that real name in real life, and what little information we may have is probably fabricated, probably manufactured from whole cloth, right? There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. It's just it's two different sides of the same coin. That's persona, and you could, of course, which is what I do, be in the middle, somewhere on one side or the other. But the idea is, it's this online persona. It's who you are online, the way you want to present yourself. But the key is, it's got to be consistent across all of your properties or entities online. And that's what we're going to talk about, because that's what Kim was saying, is it's a challenge. It is. And it can be if you haven't thought through it and put some time and effort into figuring some of this stuff out. Brand is also, as I mentioned, it's consistent. A brand is also consistent image, messaging, design, essentially anything that permeates from you through the computer screen to your online presence. Every marketing aspect is branded, okay? And we'll talk about that, because that's true. Everything you're doing right now is already branded. Thirdly, a brand requires this long-term planning that I've been alluding to. It also requires careful, diligent foresight. Now, I'm going to pause for everybody to leave, because everyone's like, I don't need more work to do. I don't want long-term. I'm already doing that. And I know I'm constantly giving you guys more and more and more. And so, what's your next 5 moves? What's your next big move? Get up the mountain, little hills in the middle. And all this stuff requires this long-term foresight and planning. And I'm here to tell you, not all of it requires that. You can certainly do what I did and just kind of fail forward, writing book after book and switch genres and all that stuff. And it might take you 10 years or 7 years, like I did, to build a full-time career out of it. Or you can take a break, pause, and do some of this careful planning ahead of time and do it in a year, and get to that full-time career in a year or 2 years, or just far less than it took me. That's kind of what I want to open with, because I didn't think about branding initially. When I first wrote a book, it was just, it's me, and here's who I am, and I hope the world likes it. I didn't think about the way my name looked on the cover. There was none of that. I didn't care, because I didn't think I was going to do it long-term, right? You're here listening to me, watching me, because you do want to do this long-term. I'm just going to make that assumption. Maybe I'm wrong, but you probably want to do this for a long time. So it is worth the 2 days, 3 days of work to figure out what your brand is and figure out how you want to present yourself online. Trust me, it's worth it. Just put the writing aside for a little bit. Oh, maybe not. Maybe write a little bit and then do this. But spend 2 or 3 days or a whole week, an hour a day, figuring out what your brand is and what your messaging is going to look like, feel like, act like, sound like, and present itself like online. It's going to make things easier down the road, okay? I saw your question, Joan. We'll get there. Why do you need a brand? Well, there's 4 things that I've identified. There's probably a lot more, but I just wanted to give 4 to you right away that are like the big ones that I came up with, because these really are the main reasons I think branding is important for authors specifically. First of all, it speaks for you. Your brand speaks for you when you're not there. All right, your brand is, again, your persona. It's you, the way you want to be presented to the world online. And I say online, I mean, Facebook, social media, Amazon description, sales pages, your actual book when people get it. So online just means everywhere that you aren't at that time. Your brand will speak for you when you're not there. So if you build this brand correctly and you put the time and effort into getting it off the ground and presented the way you desire it to be presented, what's going to happen is your brand will start speaking for you. And what that means is, literally, is people will make assumptions about who you are, and they'll in some cases fight for you because they know who you are. Does that make sense? We know, let's see, I'm trying to think of a good example here. Brandon Sanderson, got raked over the coals by, I think it was Wired, some asshole sorry, this is the only word I can come up with, journalist, and I have to put that in quotes because I think journalism is almost dead in America, and it's disgusting because it used to mean something, now it doesn't, whatever. He wrote this article about Brandon Sanderson talking about how Mormons suck and just I can't believe this boring guy could be such a famous author. It was awful. It was atrocious, and it was clearly a piece meant to rile up the crowd, and rile up the crowd it did. Everybody online came to Brandon's defense because he built this brand over the course of however many decades, 20 years or so of being who he is and just being Brandon, doing Brandon stuff. I don't think he's any different in real life. So his brand, like my personal profile, is him. It's one and the same, right? I'm assuming, maybe not. Maybe he's like, this like ripped 6'5" football player looking, probably not. We've seen him in real life. We know he doesn't look like that. So he's probably the same guy that he presents online. But he's done such a good job building that brand, being a nice guy, being a mouthpiece for the good in Mormonism, if you want to go the religious route, or being the good in the indie author space, because he is independent. And there were so many people that just blasted this guy on I think it was Wired. Sorry, Wired, if it wasn't you. I posted about it. You can go find what I had to say about it. But I found the guy on Twitter too, and I was like, hey, let's talk about this. I'd love to be interviewed by you, because I think I can do well, anyway. It's neither here nor there. I was ready to fight. But I was ready to fight for my boy Brandon. I met the guy. Like I know him, and he's built such a strong brand in association with this fantasy, almost uplifting, optimistic style, and that's how he presents himself online. It's a brand. That's my point, is people will speak, or your brand will speak for you, literally to other people when you're not there. Brandon wasn't fighting this battle. Actually, he posted on Reddit, please don't fight for me. I don't need that. I don't care. Of course, everybody did anyway, because it's the internet. But he did such a good job building a brand over time, and he probably didn't think about it that much. But if you put the effort in to think about how you want to present yourself online, it's going to speak for you when you're not there. Okay, that's the first one. Secondly, your brand solidifies your marketing messaging. And this is important for you as the author, as the person creating the marketing messaging, as much as it is for the people receiving your marketing messaging, your readership, your fans, your cohorts, and counterparts, co-writers, whatever. Your brand solidifies your marketing messaging, because once you've defined a brand for yourself, this is who I am, this is how I sound, this is what I look like, and when I present myself online, this is what it is. It just makes everything easier. So I say it solidifies your marketing messaging. You already know your logo, so you don't have to worry about creating a logo to slap on a graphic. You already got it, right? Just pop it over, boom, done. Tools like Canva we'll talk about make it a lot easier, because you can pre-schedule all the, build templates and stuff, and then you just change the image, change the text, and then squirt it out. It's got your logo on it, right? So your brand solidifies that marketing messaging for you as much as it does for everybody else. So people see it, and then all this, oh yeah, I know who this is, I know who this is. I don't have to read Nick Thacker, on there to know that's Nick Thacker. Like that's my logo. It's always been that logo. Well, mostly always been that logo. Third, your brand is like a marketing team. This kind of goes hand in hand with the previous one, the previous two. It's working when you're not working. So your brand is the collection of things that your persona sends out on the internet or in person or wherever, and those things can live a long time, right? Memes might only last a day or two, but some memes get shared over and over and over and over again. So if your part of your brand is producing funny joke memes, like I like to do that for my nonfiction side and the fiction side, because I like humor, I like the sarcasm, right? It's part of who I am, it's part of my brand. So I like to do that, and some of these memes will get shared over and over again, and they'll have second, third, fourth lives. People will resurrect them and share them again. And so it's in my best interest to put a link or a logo or something in there that's mine on that, to kind of claim it, to tell people, hey, this is me, and I created this, and I don't want to take credit for the creation of it necessarily, but I want to take credit for posting it so that you guys can see me and share it and all that, and it becomes a little marketing team down the road. Okay, so as I said, I'm talking about branding because I'm doing this course on marketing, and I'm realizing there's so much overlap. But it's almost like the advertising stuff we do and the social media, the newsletters, and all that stuff I've talked about falls into the bucket of marketing. But then marketing falls into this bigger bucket of brand, right? And authors don't always think about this bigger bucket, and it makes sense because you don't necessarily have to have a brand to be successful. But it turns out everybody has one. We're gonna talk about that. Don't worry. Fourth, finally. Your brand sells in association to your name/books, your name and your books, and hopefully it's a good one. This is what I just alluded to at the end. You're already branding yourself and your books, whether you know it or not, whether you've put the effort in or not. It's a scary fact, a scary realization when you discover that everything you've put out online from the beginning of your author career to now is part of your brand. So if I were to go to your page and collect all that stuff, and put it on a vision board, for example. Look at all the images. Do they look like they belong to your brand? Are you posting about dinosaurs and then posting about politics and then posting about World War II history, and everything looks different? The design is very far. One of them is illustrated. One of them is a photograph. I'm not telling you that you can't do that. But this is what a brand is, and it's what a brand becomes. So as an author who's professional, who's putting your professional self out there, think in terms of what is my brand selling? What association is it selling? And do I want that? Do I not want that? Does it kind of gel with who I am? Okay, great. Does it not? Okay, great. How do we change it? So there's no downside here. It's just as you go forward, from this moment forward, I want you to start thinking about that, because that's going to make all of your marketing efforts easier, okay? I'll pause, answer Joan's question, and we'll jump into how do you actually do this? How do you build this brand? So Joan asked, would you suggest branding your fiction and nonfiction the same or different? Great question. The answer is, it depends. We'll talk about it, okay? So how do you build a brand? Let's jump into that, and that may help answer some of your question, Joan. And of course, if you have a question, you can post it here. I may ask you to kind of re-up, copy-paste that post, because I only see the last 4. So go ahead and drop it, or wait until the end and come back. But anyway, let's move on to how do you build a brand? How do you do this dang thing called building a brand? Well, as I just said, it turns out everyone already has a brand, whether you realize it or not. Everyone's already been building this brand, whether you realize it or not. That's a scary proposition, because you might be thinking, well, my lack of branding has probably the reason why I'm not making $1 million a year. The good news is, it's probably not why you're not making $1 million a year. Brand is important, but it's not the silver bullet. It's not going to be the thing that immediately takes your career from here to goes to here. However, it's a force multiplier, just like a lot of other things in marketing. Advertising is a force multiplier, and it's a very direct force multiplier. So by way of example, let me explain what I mean by that. If you advertise a bad book, you're throwing good money after bad, right? And you're just doubling down on suckiness. You're just going to lose money effectively long term. But if you advertise a good book, and I know I'm being very vague with that, good, bad, whatever. But if you're advertising a good book and everything, the book package is all built well, then you're probably going to make money from that ad. Okay, it's very, very simple. I know it's not that simple when you actually do it, but conceptually, you can probably agree that that's simple. Branding is the same way. If you are not really focused on the brand and you're just kind of squirting out images and whatever, videos of this, and I'm gonna do a behind the book, video, and then you only do one of them and it doesn't have your logo on it. It's very kind of scattershot and discombobulated. It's not doing you any favors. The good news is it's probably not hurting you. People aren't gonna be like, ooh, ew, gross, he didn't have his logo on that video, I'm not gonna follow him. It's not hurting you in that sense, but it's certainly not helping. And so if you're going to invest the effort in building a brand, you have to invest the effort in building a brand. So that's how you do it. You just actually have to figure out, it's important for me. You have to decide it's important for me to build a brand as an author, and I need to spend the time and the effort and the energy and sometimes the money to do it, okay? You might have to enlist a designer to create some templates for you. If you don't have a design eye, please do that. Don't just, go with your gut. If you're not a designer, because that, I don't know, it's not going to help you. I hope that makes sense. So it's not necessarily going to hurt you to not have thought through this branding stuff. You already have a brand. It's the stuff you've been posting online for years. And the way your books look now, that's part of your brand. if you haven't been thinking about it and haven't been focused on it, you probably aren't being hurt by it, but you're certainly not being helped as much as you could by having a thoughtful, purposeful brand. Fair? So the way you do this is you start with yourself. That sounds obvious because we're talking about you. But what I mean is you probably should do a demographic and psychographic analysis on yourself first before you do this. Now, I am not a fan of the idea of personas in marketing, meaning I don't want to niche down to advertise to a particular persona. We don't have time to get into why. There's some psychology and some science there. It's part of my marketing course. Hint, hint. Go pay for that. No, I'm just kidding. But that's not what we're talking about. You start with yourself, though. In branding, you can absolutely use a persona to your benefit. And what I mean by a persona, this isn't what I talked about as a brand as your persona. I'm talking about a marketing persona where you create like this fake avatar and you give them, a job and 2.3 kids and a dog and living the American dream, whatever. Do that, but start with yourself. Define, literally, write down on a piece of paper who you are. I'm, 36 years old. I live in Colorado. I love to vacation. I love whiskey by the fireplace. Like all that stuff. Put it on a piece of paper, and just define yourself first. Demographic analysis is, the who you are in terms of like statistics. Government statistics. Where do you live? How old are you? What is your hair color, eye color, whatever? What racial background do you have? That kind of stuff. And then your psychographic analysis, which is equally important, if not more, is your attitude, your belief systems, your, if that's religion, politics, whatever. Don't be afraid. You don't have to show anybody this. Just write it down. It's secret. Okay, don't worry about it. But if you get this stuff on a page, like me, for example, I'm sarcastic. I like whiskey by the fireplace. That's a psychographic type thing. Write all that stuff down, and you've basically built a persona that happens to just be you. But this is a starting point. This isn't what you're going to build into become your brand. But basically, what you do then is you take all that stuff and you look at it and you go, okay, what messaging pieces that I want to have here are not present in this. Meaning, if I were to build a brand based on what I see on this piece of paper, what's missing? So for me, I'm not a woman, so I don't have anything on there that can relate to women. So what I want to do is make sure that any of my branding and marketing messaging is either attractive or something that's not a turnoff to women. And I'm not talking about like sexually or physically or anything like that. I mean the kind of thing that would be in my mind offensive to women in general. And I'm very much overgeneralizing here, folks, but bear with me. Because a lot of my readers are women, right? 56% of my readers are female, are women. And so I need to make sure that this persona that I have, this brand that I'm building, is something that is really kind of androgynous. Like it's not male, female, it's not one or the other. It's not just me anymore. I'm building this brand and I need to kind of tweak that so that I can present that to 50% of the population and they're not going to be immediately turned off by it or they're not going to ignore it. And this is where we get really stereotypical, but this is where, because it's statistics, that actually can help us. So I'm not going to go post about, dump trucks and like driving around and shooting guns and all that stuff, because that generally is not something that, half the female women population of the United States at least would care about. Does that make sense? So that doesn't mean that I can't ever post that stuff. If that's part of my brand, like Jack Carr, for example, the guy that wrote, what's that one? They just made a TV show out of it. You know what I'm talking about. Navy SEAL guy, right? That's absolutely his brand, and he doesn't care about not reaching women in that way, because I think the majority of his books are read by men. And folks, I'm not saying that women don't ever read his books. I'm saying that, you got to look at this stuff from a marketing perspective, and he's building his brand around himself. Whatever his background is, he's presenting himself as this, military, Navy SEAL, right-wing conservative dude. Great. Okay, he's sold a lot of books and he's got a TV show. I don't. So he's obviously doing it right. But I'm not Jack Carr. I don't write that kind of stuff. A lot of women read my books and they like the emotional and relational aspects of those. The men that read my books love the plot and the guns and stuff. So both of those can exist in my brand and be part of what I present to the world. So if I go to a shooting range, I can absolutely post a video of me playing with a Glock and taking it apart and putting it back together and bang, 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 shooting it. And then at the same time, I can also turn around and be like, hey, here's an argument I had with my wife, and here's how we resolved it, whatever. And this is like Harvey Bennett and Julie, whatever. I hope this is making sense. So you figure out who you are first. The reason you start there is it's so much easier to start with who you are rather than just make up a persona. And this is part of the reason why I don't like using personas in marketing, or avatars, sometimes they're called, or the ideal reader, because they don't exist. They're fake. They're these ethereal people that aren't real. You haven't actually met them. You're just making them up by guessing. So start with yourself. It doesn't have to just end there. Then add pieces to it or subtract pieces from it until you've got a persona that is pretty similar to who you are for the most part, but has aspects that will be attractive or be rewarded by people who see it online. Is this making sense? Okay, I hope so. I don't have any feedback, so it makes sense to me. Yeah, so you basically brainstorm ways to then, so once you do that, you then figure out, okay, well, now I need messaging here. And this is where we get into some of the marketing. This is social media advertising or social media relation building. You brainstorm ways to sort of sell those pieces. Like I mentioned, doing a video at a shooting range, or going walking around a World War II history museum. Things like that can absolutely fit into your books and your series, and it doesn't take a huge stretch of the imagination, right? If you're writing fantasy, you don't have to create a fake world and like walk into it on a green screen. You can literally walk to a place in the mountains and that's close to your house, be like, this inspired this scene from this book where they're on this planet, and you can't see it here, but I'm picturing the giant planet out in the. You can do that kind of stuff, and readers are like, oh yeah, absolutely, they love it. So you figure out pieces that you can use to sell this persona, sell this idea of who you've created as a brand. Examples, maybe you decide you want to create a bunch of illustrated sketchbook style profile pics, because you're not actually your author name, you're a pen name, and so this pen name is similar to you, like I said, but it's different in some ways, and so you need to create some profile pics, and you decide, because it matches your style, your aesthetic, whatever it is, that you're going to create some sketchbook style profile pics of yourself. Okay, you use like an AI app on your phone. You can do this, Photoshop, Canva, all kinds of. I don't know if Canva can, but you can do all kinds of stuff like that, and then produce 12 different profile pics, and then once a month you change that profile pic. What you're doing is you're getting the relevance, the recency, and the reputation built by posting regularly on social media. And all you've done is honored the brand you've built in a way that your readers will appreciate. And you certainly don't have to do it every month. You can do it every week. You can do it twice a year. It doesn't matter. That's getting into more of the social media advertising and how to do that well. I'm just talking about brand, but that would be an example of crafting a brand that you've thought of that's purposeful, and then designing ways to send out those little messaging pieces throughout the year as part of your brand, okay? Maybe, like I mentioned, the memes, the joke memes. I have a subscription to a website called supermeme.ai, which is, you just literally, it's really cool actually. You just type in a string of text, like for example, editing is hard. And then it gives you a bunch of like memes, like you've seen, the Willy Wonka guy, like that, all that stuff. And then it makes up some text over it, and they're like pretty funny. They're actually really good. And you can tweak them and change them and all that still. And then, but it's a great way for me to produce hundreds of these little meme pictures that I'm going to, surprise, surprise, release once a day, next year, or once a week next year. But the point is, I have these now. I can batch produce all that stuff. Why? Because I've decided, doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, I've decided that, it doesn't matter if it's going to work or if it doesn't work, it's a test, okay? I believe that I love seeing those joke memes. That's one of the main reasons I get on Facebook and my personal profile. So I thought, hey, I'm designing this persona based on me. I like this stuff. I love to take my writing seriously, but not take myself so seriously. So that kind of fits, right? These ideas of these funny memes, So I'm going to post these joke memes on my Facebook page and group for my fiction side and for my nonfiction side. So you'll probably see those showing up in Book Career in a Year. I've done them before, and people seem to resonate with them. So again, it's all part of my brand. Point is, figure out what that is for you. Design this persona, figure out what would be the way to kind of spread this message of who this persona is. If it's Jack Carr, you got to have like Black Rifle Coffee Company flags in the background and like, sitting like a bunker looking thing with guns everywhere. Like, that's part of his brand. Right or wrong, that's who he is, who his online persona is. So you got to go with it. Brandon Sanderson, he's this kind, genuine, authentic, Mormon who loves life and loves his family, and he lives in this amazing castle, and he like hires all his friends and family. That's his brand. So he's absolutely going to share that kind of stuff. It would be really weird for him not to. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's get into some of the brass tacks. What does your brand look like? This is sort of what Joan was asking about. These are the questions that people ask. They haven't even thought of the stuff I mentioned. Usually people jump immediately to color scheme, logo, all that stuff. And that is important, but it's only important at this phase, at this part of the process. Does that make sense? You got to go through that stuff before. Who's the persona? What's the brand? What's it for? Why am I doing this? Write it down. It's really helpful to see it because you can visualize some of this stuff. Make little notes and doodles for yourself. And then you can ask yourself questions like, well, what does this brand look like? What is the color scheme? For Nick Thacker, author, the fiction stuff, it's maroon and white or black, right? So just black and white, and then maroon is like the pop of color. But I wanted kind of dark, almost blood, but more classy, I guess, kind of a classier side of maroon rather than a reddish, kind of a blood side. Again, doesn't matter. It's mine. I chose it. Whatever. Don't spend so much time thinking about this. Book Career in a Year is obviously very blue. I always joke book career blue. I'm not wearing my book career blue, but this is like a tan white shirt. So this is my tertiary color. And I'm saying that jokingly, but that's absolutely true. And I designed the brand for Book Career in a Year. I wanted light blue, like a darker blue, like a more classy kind of blue, like an oceany kind of blue, and then a tertiary color of tan. Again, white, black, those always work. Those will always work. If you have a logo you're trying to make and you've got your main two colors, I wouldn't recommend three usually. If you've got your main two colors in there and you need it to kind of pop off the page, you do like a drop shadow that's black, or you can do an outline that's white, make it look more like a sports vector logo. Anyway, this isn't a graphic design course, but these are the things designers think about. I know because I was one for a long time, and it really helps. So thinking in terms of your color, you can have one color or two main colors, possibly three, and then black and white are always going to be in there as possible. So if you're doing like a back cover, for example, for your series, you maybe hired a designer for the cover and you need to make the back cover look good. You can use white text on that, and it's not going to break your brand because white always works. Hope that makes sense. Your logo is a big part of this, and for the same reasons that I mentioned before, you want it to look consistent all the way across the board. You don't have to put your logo on every single thing you pop out there. For example, the Book Career in a Year logo didn't really fit on all the memes that I was creating, and I didn't want to promote that logo because there wasn't really a call to action there. So what I did instead was I made a thing, you may have seen it, it's just a little like banner basically that gets on every single meme. Every single image has a little banner in the bottom left, bottom right corner that just says fb.com/groups/book career. It's kind of long, but it's the link. It goes right to the Book Career in a Year group. So people can see the meme, they read the meme, they go, oh, this guy's, it's a writing meme, I get it, okay. And then, oh, cool, there's a place to go. And they end up on Book Career in a Year. So it's all branding. It's all part of that, building that brand. Stronger brand would be to use a logo, but again, I wanted a call to action. So that's the reason I chose that, and that was more of a marketing decision. But figure out what your logo is. Nick Thacker, author, the fiction stuff, always has, USA Today bestselling author Nick Thacker. I don't really care that it's USA Today bestseller. I would have something up there just to make it look right, to balance it. It certainly doesn't help with sales, if you're wondering, but design a logo that you can reuse over and over again. What I've done is I've designed a few logos, and usually when you hire a graphic designer, you're going to get a logo pack is what we call it. And you'll have a vector, which is just something that can be scaled infinitely because it's mathematically changing the lines every time. So it's sharp. You'll have some rasterized, JPEG files, logos like that you can use. You will usually have a black, a white, so you can put all white logo on something that's darker, and vice versa. And you'll have the full color stuff, and you'll usually get it in a few different formats: PSD, EPS, AI for Illustrator, all sorts of stuff like that. And part of that logo pack for me was I designed all of that with the Nick Thacker, author, a USA Today bestseller on top, and the full color, black and white, yada yada. And then I also put a stylized signature. Now, if you've ever got a signed book from me, you know that it is absolutely not my real signature, because my real signature is abysmal, and it's just a bunch of squiggles. So I found a font that's like a handwritten, stylized script font, and I wrote Nick Thacker on that. And then I kind of slapped that on the logo. And so one of my logo options is Nick Thacker with my signature on it. my stylized signature. So that's a great idea too. If you're doing something like that, you can add that to posters or postcards, or I've got a banner, tabletop banner with the QR code, and it's got the logo with my name on it, my signature on it. And so it just kind of sells this idea that, oh, we're authors. Why? Well, because authors sign books. That's the idea that I had. I was like, well, it kind of immediately says, oh, this guy signs stuff. He's an author. That makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense or not. Think in terms of aesthetic too. So are you hard edges? Are you rounded corners? Soft color palette? Contrasted hard color palette? Dark, mysterious, light, airy? These are words, adjectives, descriptors that you can use when you're building out this brand pack, and it's going to help you realize, like, oh, I actually do kind of lean toward, I want optimism. I want light, fluffy, airy. Great. Well, choose, those Easter palette kind of color schemes. The pastel, right? That's the word I'm thinking of. Or if you're thinking, no, I'm a thriller author and I really want to kind of sell that like hard, mysterious, kind of thriller, edgy. Great. Well, maybe you're using textured, backgrounds and textured stuff on top of your fonts, and everything's textured, and got these blood kind of spilled backgrounds and all that. All that's part of your brand. Don't worry about if it's right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. You're just building that brand. But the point is to build it and then be consistent with it over time. Good time to answer Joan's question here. Would you suggest branding your fiction and nonfiction the same or different? I chose to go different. I chose to make them kind of contrast to each other. Really because I wanted to keep it, honestly, it's going to sound goofy, but I wanted to keep it as simple as possible in my my scheduling app. I've used a few. I used Vista Social right now, Vista Social. And I wanted to just at a glance be able to tell which one was which. And so I tried to go opposite, so I could just say, well, okay, light blue for Book Career in a Year, and then dark maroon, black for fiction. I don't think it matters. I think you can do. I can't think of any examples, but there's absolutely examples that I know I've come across in the past that you have an author who's doing their fiction thing, and then they subtly shift it and then do the nonfiction thing. So it's still their name, if they keep the same name, and then they kind of subtly shift it a little bit and make it more maybe corporate looking or professional, and go nonfiction with it. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's just a matter of being consistent. So define it, and if it's easy for you to keep both of them simple and they look the same, keep it the same, or not the same, exact same, but keep it similar, and then just be consistent with it. I hope that answers your question. Yeah, Rose said, this is great. I had a full brand evaluation completed over the summer. It's been enlightening, and the one thing I highly recommend, remember, change is good, consistency is key. Yeah, consistency is absolutely key in this. Joan, how about those of us who write in several genres, how to find consistency? Yeah, that's tricky. So I started writing thrillers, obviously, action-adventure type stuff, and I didn't know anything about genre, so I wrote sci-fi, which was similar, because I always write thrillers. At the end of the day, the style is thriller. No matter if it's fantasy or sci-fi, it ends up being kind of a thriller. But it wasn't close enough for my readers. I didn't get the readership to jump from action-adventure thriller to sci-fi. So if I were to do it all over again, at that time, when I didn't have the big readership that I have now, I would not have tried to force it. I would try to split out those two genres into two separate brands. And this is where I would probably go very similar. So I'd have Nick Thacker author, and then it would be one color maybe for thriller, and then Nick Thacker author, same logo design, but different color scheme for sci-fi. Or I would do a pen name, Nick Ryan, if I was a romance author. I don't know. It's my middle name. And so thinking through things like that are really important. You can do that at any point in the process. If you spend the time and the effort and the energy and do it now, just be consistent with it, and go with it, and it's gonna help you, because you're gonna say, okay, well, I know exactly where this falls in my marketing bucket. I know exactly what to do with this, because this is thriller, not romance, whatever. So it's this brand rather than this brand. But again, it doesn't matter if it's vastly different. It doesn't have to be different. Brands all the time get into different genres and they slap their logo on it. So I watch the Avs games. The Pepsi Center, what's used to be called, it's now the Ball Arena. They make jars, right? So I'm used to seeing the logo for Ball on the jar that my grandma used to do canning with. Now it's all over the arena. That doesn't mean that they're getting into hockey, but the logo totally works in that in that element. And they call it the Ball Arena. It's part of it's kind of hockey now. So that's branding. They're basically just branding their stuff in this whole different element, and we're not going to do that, because we're authors. It's still going to be books, so you don't have to worry about whether or not it's going to work super well or not work super well. What I want you to hear is it doesn't matter. Just pick something, go with it, and be very consistent with it as long as you can before you have to change it. Robin loves help. She says she loves help make branding kits, colors, logos, fonts, and she's really good at it too. So if you want to go pay Robin some money, I bet she'll whip something up pretty awesome for you. Okay, last thing before I open it up for questions. I know we're kind of getting close to time here, but how do you use the brand? I wanted to answer this because this is this is part of my notes. How do you use a brand? So think through where you're interacting online and how you're interacting online. And this goes into Joan's point a little bit. How do you want a separate brand, or are you acting as your personal profile or a pin name or something like that? Just be clear about that. When you respond to a comment, as little as that may be, it's still part of branding. Slowly start replacing / adding branded elements to all of your existing marketing material. So go to your Facebook ads, and maybe you don't want to put a logo on your Facebook ad because usually Facebook doesn't like adding text to those images and stuff. So that's fine, but you should be doing it from a Facebook page. I mean, you have to be doing it from a Facebook page in order to advertise, or a personal profile. You can't do it from a group. Anyway, the page should be branded. So mine says Nick Thacker, author, and my little picture shows up. It's me as an author, right? You can put your book, you can put your, usually works better on advertising to have a picture of a human, just psychology. But I've seen authors have success with putting a logo, a little stylized logo of who they are. My buddy Jonathan Yanez does like a little Wolfpack logo. I think he does it on his ads, I can't remember. You can do that. It's all, but just think about adding that, branded element to everything you're posting. So if you're going to post an image of Yellowstone National Park because your book is set in Yellowstone National Park, can you put your logo on that image before you post it? It doesn't mean you're taking credit for that image. If you found it, if it's stock photo, who cares? You're not taking credit for that by putting your logo on it. You're just saying, this is part of my brand package. I'm about to post about Yellowstone and my new book and a link to my new book, and here's a picture of Yellowstone, and you want to slap your logo on there as like a watermark because it's part of that brand. So start thinking about replacing and adding those branded elements all across your existing marketing materials. This is a big one. Create templates. Make it easy for yourself. I've given you supermeme.ai you can use. That's more for memes, jokes. Canva is great for this. It's an online design suite if you've never played with it or heard of it. It's like baby Photoshop. You can't do as much. If you're a Photoshop whiz, it's kind of annoying because it kind of limits you, but it's more than enough for what authors need to be doing. Aside from designing book covers, which you can technically do on Canva, but I wouldn't. Marketing materials, branding stuff, absolutely. And Canva makes this really easy. They actually give you, if the paid account, the mid-tier or whatever it is that I'm on, you can actually design branding guides. So you can design like an entire color palette that it shows up when you design a new thing. It's like, hey, here's your color palette. Do you want to use one of these colors for that font? You can upload your logos and all the different iterations of that. You can even design templates for individual images. So it's like, hey, here's a banner with my logo on it, and then here's another banner that says on sale, and then reuse that and upload 50 images that just go pop, 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 and they all get that on sale and logo banner on. Hope that makes sense. And you just download it and you have a pack of 50 images all branded for you. Takes a little time to set up, but again, do that once you've figured out what your brand is, and it's going to make things a lot easier going forward. You can just get in there in the morning and go, all right, I need 3 posts today. Here's an image, here's an image, here's an image, boom, done. There you go. And you have to write the post, but you can use ChatGPT to help write some of these social posts, folks. I do that all the time. I'll obviously tweak it. I'll obviously, coach it a little bit, but ChatGPT now allows you to build in kind of not canned responses, but you basically train it on who you are. So I've put in there, I'm a full-time thriller author. I'm sarcastic. I like, so you give it the style that you want, and it responds to you in that style if you ask it to. So I can say, hey, I need to write some social posts. Got a new book coming out. I'm done. I don't want to write anything anymore. I'm just lazy. Here's what the book is about, and it spits out, hey, readers, hope you're a fan of action adventure thriller. Like, it'll do it for you. And it's pretty good. I mean, it works. It's good enough to at least, tweak and change some copy and then post. And then finally, last thing, and I'll shut up, is start thinking in terms of, I'm a brand, not I'm just me. I'm not telling you to, have an identity crisis here, but this is marketing. It's branding, and everything you do online as an author, when you are in that headspace of an author, I'm not talking about your personal profile, but your author side, the stuff you do as an author, as a professional, think in terms of, I'm a brand now. I'm a brand. I'm not just a person. I'm not just a person writing books. Ultimately, yeah, you are, but there's a filter now that is called your brand. So you start thinking in terms of that, and you might do the same thing. That's fine, but you might also make decisions differently. You might also start thinking, oh, yeah, I was just going to comment, but now I think I'm going to post a video or I'm going to comment, and then I'm going to go make a post about, my response to this, and there's going to be a video, and then I'm going to link to my book. I don't know. And that's partly marketing because you're linking to your book and asking, for people to buy it. But aside from that, you can absolutely interact online as a brand, and it's just a subtly different shift. It's a mindset thing. Kind of getting off on the deep end there, so I'll stop. I have a couple minutes here if there's any questions, but I hope this helps you. I hope this is maybe enlightening. I think a lot of authors don't think this deeply about brand, and it's a shame because it's a pretty easy way to build out everything, including book packaging and marketing and advertising. And it's all there to help you. And so if you think through it and put the effort in, put the time in, like I said, a few days, that's all it takes. And then you don't even really have to revisit it. If you do it well and you're consistent with it, you don't have to go back and you don't have to do this every week. You just think about the brand once and get it nailed down, and you'll be able to market and write books and package them up, and everything will be easier because you've thought through this before. Okay, I hope that helps. Please leave a comment if you've got a question, if you have anything that you want me to clarify. I'm looking at the comments now. If you're watching me over on the tube, I'm not seeing that, but I'll see it later. And if you're on something like Twitter or X, whatever we call it now, same thing. My Facebook page, same thing. I'm not seeing those places, but I know there's millions of people out there watching, and I appreciate you. Drop a comment wherever you are. I'll try to get back to it soonly. YouTube I'm a little slow at, but that's fine. But if you're in the group, if you're in Book Career in a Year Facebook group, that is the place to be du jour. Drop a comment. I can see those. And thanks, Joan. Says very helpful. Yep. Hope it is. As I said, Robin said she loves doing this stuff. She also loves money. So go pay her and she'll build this stuff for you. Randall's got a question. As far as logos, do you prefer tattoos or an actual brand? What's the pain scale for each? I gotta say, I'm a fan of the actual brand. There's something about the Maillard reaction when you get that sizzle, sell the sizzle, not the steak. I don't have either. I've never been branded, thankfully. I was never in a cult, and I'm not a piece of cattle. And I don't have a tattoo either. Kind of a shame. I've always wanted a tattoo, but I could never decide on what I wanted like forever. Anyway, I don't know. What about you, man? You're a tattoo guy, I think. I don't know. Actually, if you're a brand guy, I don't want to know. Actually, don't tell us. That's fine. That's fine. Any last parting shots or parting thoughts? Sorry. Freudian slip there. Drink my protein shake and take a second. No, nothing? All right, that's fine. Little light attendant today. That's totally fine. But for those of you still here, do not forget, tomorrow we kick off December's Author Ascend Monthly. If you're in it, thank you. If you're not in it, you should be, because it's totally free this month, this December. Ask me how I know. Seriously, go sign up, guys. It's totally free for a month. Yeah, I'm trying to sell you on it. Yeah, I want you to keep paying and whatever in the future. Obviously, it's something I built, and I'm trying to make money from it. But I didn't do it to make money. I did it because I'm trying to find a better way to do the course thing. I'm still going to do courses, and I'm still going to do live streams, but I'm trying to find a way to have that more like kind of group coaching interaction that I think is missing from a lot of courses. And Author Ascend, that's the best answer I've found so far. A couple of you here that have been in it before, I know it's very, very new. So there's, it's very small and we're just growing slowly. But I'm offering it free for a month because I believe it's something that will be really, really helpful for you. You can get in there and you can watch all the previous videos. There's only 3 right now. But you can do that as long as you're in there monthly. You can watch every previous video, so you don't even have to be there live. But we do live calls 3 times a month, and we talk about things that you need in your author career. And if you have questions, you send them to me and I answer them either live with you or after the fact, either way. But it's trying to get information to you that I believe will be really helpful for your author career. So go sign up. That's over at learn.bookcareerinayear.com. You go to the website and find it. And then there's a thing that says join the club on the top, in the menu. Use the code BookCareer, I think. Black Friday author. I think it's Black Friday author. I think there's a Black Friday code. Yeah, use that one. Black Friday author will get you in for free, 100% free. You got to put a credit card in, so in case you want to keep going, it'll be $29 a month or something like that. But 35, I don't remember. Anyway, go do that, please, because it's really good, and I'm excited about it. I think it's only gonna get better and better over time, the more that we're in there. So please go do that. And I believe that's it. I haven't seen any other questions come through. So thank you all so much for being here, learning about branding. Let's go branding. We will be back at it next week with something cool. I don't even know what it is yet, but it's going to be cool. It's going to be awesome. Hope this serves you. Hope this helps you guys. And we will see you next week. Thanks so much. Goodbye.